Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. So today I thought we could do a little book talk because I just finished The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. If you haven't heard, this is like a story about snow and the beginning of the Hunger Games. It's really interesting. I know a lot of people didn't like the last book of the trilogy, Mockingjay, but I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed this too. I know I've heard some people saying they were disappointed, but I think it was pretty good. I'm a little upset with the ending just because I wanted more, but I don't want to spoil anything, so if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend you pick it up. I'd rate it 4 out of 5 stars just because, like I said, there were some parts I wanted more from, but it was so interesting to see the villain backstory. I love stories like that where it shows like how the villain came to be, and I think that was like really well done in this. So if you're interested in that too, I'd suggest you pick it up and then leave a comment what you thought about it. One thing I really liked about this book is that in the beginning she has like quotes from like Thomas Hobbes and John Locke and like Rousseau about like the social contract. I don't know if you guys talked about this in your history class. My history class used to talk about it all the time, and it was like their idea that if there were no laws, how would humans act, or like why do humans put themselves under a government? Is it to keep like natural order? Is it because they're worried that in a natural environment with no laws they would be like really violent? And I thought that was really interesting because I remember hearing it in my history class and I was just like kind of confused, like I could never picture it. And I feel like this book does like a good job of showing like what could happen, even though I don't think some of Snow's like point of views were completely correct about it. I did think it was so interesting to see that. So if you guys like those like kind of theories and stuff, this is a good book for you because it does talk about that a lot and it goes through like the different perspectives. So they discuss like those themes throughout the book, but in particular there's a conversation on page 243 that was really interesting to me where after Snow is forced into the arena and he has to kill one of the tributes, she's like saying like, how do you feel in there? Like that's humanity in its natural state, like stripped down, like that's how you would act if there were no rules, laws. And Snow at first is like, if you didn't put me in the arena I wouldn't have killed anyone. And Dr. Gall's like, well, you're blaming it on the environment, but that's just how like humans are in their natural state. It's really hard for me to like wrap my head around those type of ideas, which is why I found this book so interesting, because it kind of like lays out and it shows how Snow goes from like being like that's ridiculous, like that's not true, to all the way to the end of the book when he's like gone in an arc and he realizes like that he thinks the capital is there to make order, so that won't happen. And that experience in the arena scarred him so much that he feels like it's so necessary. So I thought that was really interesting to see that like transformation from I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't put me into the arena to like we need these laws to protect us, like we need these to make order and like have control. Okay, now I kind of want to talk about like each character individually, specifically Lucy Gray first. I want to start with just because I thought she was such an interesting character, and I thought it was interesting also that they had another tribute from District 12, and I wonder like how that played in with like Snow hating Katniss like right off the bat, you know? And I was like curious about how that came in, and like the song that Lucy Gray sings about like are you coming to the tree, you know, and like those songs, like those came into play. So I just wonder, like I want to like go back and see Snow's mind like when Katniss was doing all that stuff and him having to think back about Lucy Gray, because at the end he just kind of wants to forget her. So like I'm glad that that song like carried on and like nobody forgot her. And when Lucy Gray like disappeared at the end, just like in the song, I thought that was a really weird part, because you see like Snow shift all of a sudden to he loves her, he's ready to run away with her, and then all of a sudden he's like she's a monster, like she attacked those people in the arena, she wasn't like this meek little girl. I feel like that was more part of like Snow's paranoia. I guess it kind of makes sense that she did leave the orange like scarf so the snake would attack him. So I think she did kind of find out, like see Snow's true nature and ran away, and I'm hoping she like got away at the end because he like shoots into the trees. Like I hope she got away and she like made it to District 13, and like that could be an interesting like backstory, like that she helped found District 13. I think that'd be so cool if like that connection went all the way through, and then years later Snow has to battle District 13 like not knowing that Lucy was the one that like helped it happen. And speaking of Snow, I wonder what you guys think. I was a little nervous going into this book just because I really never rooted for Snow and I never like wanted him to win, so I was nervous about a book in his point of view because I was like I'm not gonna feel invested in the character. And I didn't really feel invested in Snow, but I was like invested in his arc, like because in the beginning you see like he's struggling just as much as the districts are. Like he's poor, like he's trying to hide that from his superiors, and then he has to like go through that whole arc where he somehow realizes that like the games are necessary, which I thought was just, I mean, it's impossible for me to think about. Like I could never imagine that twist of the mind like that happened to him. So it was interesting to read about it. But I also think that there is always an underlying like wrongness about Snow. His relationship with Sejanus was always weird to me because in the beginning he like despises him because he's from the districts and he's like, he has all this wealth and the name, like the proud name of Snow is like buried, and in this district boy gets to be rich. He was always like really mad at Sejanus, and he like tried to like always had this like persona where he was like this really charming guy, even though in his thoughts he was like, I hate all of you, which is interesting. I mean, I feel like that's a classic sign of someone who could grow up to be like President Snow. His relationship with Sejanus is what really made me question how Snow is, because he would be like really friendly towards him in the beginning, and then at the end he was like mad at him, and then when they were at the peacekeeping thing, when he saw Sejanus, he was like so happy, he hugged him, and then Sejanus is like, you're my brother, but then he helps get him executed, and while he's being executed he just stands there. So I think like that really shows a lot about Snow, his relationships, especially with Lucy Gray too. Like it shows that he's not willing to risk like his standing for anything. Like he liked Sejanus and he was like glad he arrived, but if Sejanus was going to be a traitor and Snow was linked to him, he was never going to let that happen. And same with Lucy Gray, like he loved her, but then as soon as he figured out that she was the only one who could place him at the murder scene, all of a sudden he wanted to kill her. I liked how he didn't just start off as some like pure person who got like really beaten down. I know that can happen, but I feel like that would have been too dramatic of a shift. And I also really liked how Sejanus was like the counterpart, like he balanced him out, like he was really, really moral, and Snow was like, I'll do anything for power. So I like how they balanced each other out. And I also liked how his relationship with like Dr. Gow, I'm gonna say, his relationship with her changes. Like at first he really likes her and he's like interested in what she has to say, and then he's like scared of her and he never wants contact with her again, and then he gets sent to the peacekeeping jobs, and all of a sudden he's like, I have to get back in her good graces, and then he like works under her. I just thought that was so interesting. I was really scared of her. I did not like her. So I thought that was an interesting shift in Snow, like that he went from like really being creeped out from her to all the way like working under her and like not having a problem with the stuff she did. I don't know, that was weird for me. Next I want to talk about the games themselves. I thought it was really interesting to see like that backstory even 10 years into it, because this book takes place when they're doing like the 10th Hunger Games, so they're just still trying to figure stuff out, and it's in this like arena that used to be like a circus. And I thought that was really weird to see that Snow came up with the idea to like bet on your tribute or send in like food packages to make like the shows more interesting, because a big part of this book is that like nobody wants to watch the Hunger Games. Like they're seen as a really solemn event, and it's like nobody like makes eye contact, like nobody wants to like celebrate. But then when these ideas are implemented, all of a sudden it's like a game and it's like fun and people are celebrating when their tribute wins, and it's like you can see that like slow shift from like, this is totally wrong, we should not be doing this, to wow, like they deserve it, the districts deserve it, like this is so fun, let's watch like these children kill each other, you know? And I thought that was like fascinating to see, like, you know, them shifting from that. And I think that's a big reason why I liked this book so much. I know some people were disappointed in it, but I like this book a lot because it shows that shift. Like I've never understood how you can watch the Hunger Games like and children killing each other and think it's some kind of sport and like not feel anything, even though it's still like mind-boggling how anyone could ever agree with the games. It like shows how they became slowly more like into the games as like a celebration instead of like, this is a reminder of the war, like all that we've lost. This is one thing, I don't know if this is right, but do you guys remember Tigress? And I haven't read the Hunger Games trilogy in like 2 years. So Tigress in the movies, isn't that the lady that like hides Katniss and like all of them, like when they come into the Capitol and they like need a place to stay? Isn't her name Tigress? And that's his cousin's name. So is that a connection? I don't know. I haven't seen anyone else talk about this, but I was just like mind blown. I was like, is that the same person? Like, what happened between her and Snow? Like, why are they like mad at each other now? But I guess it like makes sense because Tigress always talked about, it wasn't like a huge like Sejanus was like totally against the games, and Tigress like wasn't like totally against the games, but she definitely saw the immorality in them, you know? So like maybe that's where it was, like she just felt like once Snow became president he crossed a line. I don't know. I'm really interested to know if like that's what it is. I'm gonna look it up later. So let me know if you guys noticed the same thing, because I was like freaking out about this and I feel like no one else was talking about it, so I could be totally wrong. I know a lot of people didn't like Mockingjay because it really focused on the like war aspect of it and like District 13, and this is why I think like some people really won't like this book, because like the Hunger Games is like, the book is split into 3 parts, and the Hunger Games like is just in the second part, and then the rest of it, like the first part is like preparing for the Hunger Games, and the third part is like after the Hunger Games. So I'm wondering if people won't like it because there's not much time in the Hunger Games actually, and you don't really go inside like the tributes' minds or in Snow's mind and like his perspective. What do you guys think of all the tributes' deaths, and even like some of the mentors, like in the bombing, how they died? Because we didn't really get to know them that well. Like we only saw through Snow's perspective, and I guess that was kind of like Suzanne Collins' idea to try to make us see like through the Capitol's point of view, and saying like the tributes aren't people as much as we are. So I think that was like an interesting way to stay in Snow's perspective, like, and not go into Lucy Gray's perspective in the arena, because it kind of like separates you from the action, and it like gets you into the headspace like these aren't real people, we don't know them, you know? Even though it's like, it's heartbreaking to see like when Jessup dies, oh my gosh, that was the most heartbreaking scene, like, and Lucy Gray sits with him. Those scenes, like the people we kind of did get to know, it was like still heartbreaking to see, but the ones we didn't even know, it was kind of just like, I don't even know who that is. And I feel like that's what the Capitol people thought. Like they were like, we don't know this person, like you can separate yourself from the people that are dying because you never knew them. And the last thing I want to talk about is after he dives into the lake to hide the gun because it has his DNA on it, he comes back to the base and he looks at all this stuff, and his mother's powder is destroyed. His photographs are like all shredded and like stuck together when he tries to pull them apart, and the only thing that survived is his dad's compass. What do you guys think of that? I thought that was like kind of like symbolism for like he's leaving his old life completely behind, and he's like, he's not gonna let himself love anyone else. He's gonna do what he has to do to get power and keep everything in control like he likes it. His mother's like powder, which he loved and he would always like smell for comfort, I feel like that's a big sign that like he's leaving behind his old life. So let me know what you guys think about it. I heard it's being optioned for a movie, which is really exciting, and I hope they do it as well as they did the Hunger Games books. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment what you guys thought about Snow and all of that. Thank you so much. Bye. Sejanus? I'm gonna go with Sejanus. Dr. Google, I don't know how to say her name. Coriolanus? Coriolanus. Sejanus.